You're listening to the Home Staging Show podcast and the Season 3, Episode 4. This is your host, Cindy Lin. Hey guys, welcome back to the Home Staging Show, where we talk about all things real estate, home staging, and styling your home to live or to sell. And hello from Taipei. I've been back for about a week and kind of readjusting my life here. It's been unbelievably cold when I got back. Some areas in Taipei actually snowed, which had not happened in decades. I know the East Coast is going through some crazy snow weather as well, so I hope you guys are doing well and are safe. I'm recording today's intro and outro in a coffee shop today, so you may catch some ambient noises in the background. I've been visiting my 91-year-old grandmother every day for lunch, and after lunch, I walk to a nearby bookstore and work from their coffee shop. So that's why I'm recording in the coffee shop today. Today's last episode on our 3-part podcast series is on mindset. For part 1, I interview Laura Gaskill about mindful clutter clearing, and in part 2, I interview Lara Young about designing the fabulous life you want. And on today's show, the last part is all about manifesting with Desha Peacock. She's an author, international retreat leader, and creator of Sweet Spot Style. She has sold over 10,000 copies of her first book, Create the Style You Crave. With an intuitive approach to style, Desha's book was listed by HuffPost by one of the best books to buy your girlfriend. She holds a master's degree from the School of International Training, and she's a certified global career development facilitator and has coached hundreds of women on how to create their sweet spot, a self-defined place of success and beauty. She's been quoted in YahooNews.com, Career Rookie, U.S. News Money, and has made radio and TV appearances across the nation. Her second book, Your Creative Workspace, will hit the shelves in 2017. So I had a really great interview with her, and I think she is just one magical woman, and you will find out on our show. I just really loved this conversation with her. On today's show, we chatted about her book, of course, Create the Style You Crave on a Budget You Can Afford. The concept behind her book, how to manifest, how to find clarity in all aspects of your life, ranging from finding the man you want to manifesting your dream house and designing rooms that inspire you. She also shares 7 steps on how to design the life that you want, how to manifest, and how not manifest in the life you want. We also talk about lady bosses and heroes in our lives, as well as how serendipitous it is that we are both going on the same styling retreat with Justina Blockney in Italy this May. It was a really fantastic show, so I hope you enjoy it. It's been kind of a crazy week as I readjust back life in Taiwan. But what I'm doing right now is I'm working on the content for next week. Next month's podcast and our home staging blog is all about this thing called Project Home. Since next month is Valentine's Day, we're going to give a lot of love to your home by working on various projects around your home. Also, so that you will be able to start getting the house ready if you're planning to sell in March or simply enjoy the refresh. It's going to be an email course. You will receive 1 email every weekday. We'll also have corresponding blog posts and podcasts that go along with the project. So it will all be slow shows next month. And if you're interested, there's going to be a sign up link in the show notes, and you can sign up for the Project Home right there. And as usual, if you enjoy the show, please take a moment to rate and write us a review on iTunes. It helps others to find this show, and we can book more amazing guests for the show. Thanks so much for listening, and let's start the show.
Problem being completely who I am, or just, saying ridiculous things that, embarrassing myself, or just basically like just showing at all. Like the peacock is like, whoop, here's my feathers, and I love my feathers, and I don't mind if you love my feathers too, so I'm not like shy, and like, I guess I don't want to use the word bragging, but I'm not shy in who I am,
That's awesome. I think that's really cool, and especially with the work that you do, I think you do have to, what's it better? Like, I guess teach other women about that. Because I do feel like we live in a society, I hate to be sound so like stereotypical and lean in, but I do feel like a lot of times women are not taught, or at least not brought up in my generation, to be really expressive about yourself.
That is exactly what my mission is, to help people be creatively expressive about themselves and who they are. That is exactly what Sweet Spot Style is all about over anything else. That's the core of it. So that's really cool that you like kind of caught it right at the beginning, because that's basically the essence of my umbrella brand, of my mission in life and my own life. And I think that we're not really taught how to do that. We're kind of taught to suppress our true desires and to lean into what society thinks basically will help us make money. I mean, in this country, it's
Yeah.
like anything that doesn't help you make money, it's not important.
Yeah, there's definitely that emphasis. Especially, I grew up in Asia, actually. That's a very strong emphasis when I was growing up. I think when I was growing up in the 80s, 90s, it was really about follow this path that's kind of like a predetermined path. Because the way we move through our school system, so you go through elementary school and you go to middle school, but between you go to high school, it's determined by an exam at the
Yeah.
end of your middle school career. So if you did not do well on that entrance exam, you're pretty much destined to have a bad life, so to speak, because you will be going to a not so great high school, meaning you won't get into a not so great college. And that was like one of the biggest fear my parents had, was like I would not do well in my exams, and then I would not get into a good college, and then I will have a mediocre life, kind of. Because that was kind of the model that they grew up with.
Yeah.
And I think now it's a bit different. I think being, in a more modern time and stuff. But back then when I was growing up, it was really much about growing kind of like inside the box, like everybody has this mold and this expectation on how children should be brought up and stuff like that, and how we should live in a society. And now it's not so much. And especially now, I think most of my formative years, like adult life, I think high school on, I spent it in America. So it's a different education system. And I feel like as an adult, especially doing what I do, especially now pursuing a creative career, a lot of it is about pushing myself out of that box and learning, oh, it's actually okay to do this X, Y, and Z and not do what was expected of me. So a lot of thing I feel like in my adult life, it's about recalibration, about the values I grew up with and the value I kind of received when I moved to the States. And then also now as a creative professional, like it's a whole new set of different world that I'm trying to kind of play in. So yeah, I think what you do, it's pretty admirable actually, because I think it does, you do need kind of like a role model to kind of see that everything is possible and you don't have to live in this traditional mold of how a business should be run.
Yeah. And, when I first started this business and I decided to blog about it and decided to, talk about what was really going on in my own life as I was doing it, I pretty much told my very small amount of readers, I was like, okay, I really don't, I have a core belief that if you follow what your heart says to do, like if you follow your curiosity, you follow your passion, you follow your drive, and you go for it, like first you have to know what that is, and then if you go for it, or even if you go for it and you have a hunch of what it is, but that if you go for it and you never give up, that you're going to eventually succeed, whatever success is to you. And that's how I started. And I was like, and I don't know for sure, but I'm going to try it. So if anybody wants to follow along with me, then I'll basically be the guinea pig for this experiment, because I didn't start off with a lot of money and I didn't start off with a lot of external help and I didn't start off with a lot of support. So it's like, I really feel like if I can do it, then pretty much anybody in, more or less similar circumstances can probably do it too. But and so I feel like I'm still just seeing, I don't know when I'll know for sure, but this is my third year in business without having to work for anybody else. So I feel like that's definitely something, and I feel like I've been able to maintain my lifestyle, the same as when I was working full time, if not better. So I feel like that was a goal. And I think that, this year is going to be the big year that I'm going to really feel it financially. I just feel it, I feel like it's the third year, like some people just get really lucky right away. Or at least they say they do online. You never know the whole story. You see all these stories and you're like, oh, man, like they just in their 6 months of business just made 6 figures and God, now they're making 2 million or whatever. And you're like, maybe I can do that. Like we're not that different, but I think the majority of people, it takes some time. And I think if you're able to like financially support yourself and your business without any major debt and make a profit in year 3, you're probably doing like, that's pretty average. Like that's a pretty good, deal for business.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I feel the same way because I feel like everybody has your path. I've always been a late bloomer. I mean, like when I was training for half marathon, I'm always behind. It's just the way it is. I run a little bit slower and I get to places a little bit slower. And it's the same with my business journey as well. I didn't really hit even until probably year 7 in my business. And it took a long time to be like really confident about what I do and how I put myself out there in the world because I just didn't know. I had no framework to really understand because I started my business when I was 25. So
wow,
there was a lot of kind of also like I always say I grew up with my business in a lot of sense because it really took a lot of self exploration to get to where I am today and to finally feel comfortable with my work and with where I am and where I'm heading toward. And that took a long time to find that clarity, which I think is really important too. And I know that you talk about it too.
Yes.
It's such a powerful thing to find your own voice, so to speak. I hate to sound so like stereotypical about it, but it is. I mean, it did took a while for me to get places and to find that for myself.
Yeah, I feel like it took me a while, and I feel so happy that at least I know what it is because I struggled with that for so long of just trying so many different things. It's exhausting. It's exhausting not knowing. But I think, for some people, we do have to go through lots of different things, even just to know what it is. And then now I feel so happy that I know at least the general direction of what it is. Like, I feel like now I have my grounded intention around, what we talked about in the beginning around creative expression. And then underneath that, there's so many different ways it could go. And I don't care. It doesn't matter to me which way it goes. As long as I have that, core foundation and I get to work within that. I don't care really if I work for myself or if I work for someone else, as long as, I have this certain lifestyle that I crave and I'm able to live my essence,
Yeah.
and probably that includes, helping other people do it somehow or another. And now my dog's barking. Can you hear that? You're not recording yet, are you?
We are actually.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay. I didn't even know. I thought we were just chatting.
No, but I think this conversation is great because majority of our listeners are women, and I think it's an important conversation to be had. I know we're like the home staging show, but I'm also kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's important to empower other women, and I think that's the whole idea of the show too. Is because I didn't really have like a traditional training. It's not like I went to school for staging or for styling. But I believe like if I can learn how to do it, I think everyone else could learn how to do it. So, but a lot of people feel overwhelmed or they're just scared about approaching decorating their own house or styling or whatever. So that's why the show, in a way, it's also like helping and empowering other people to do that for themselves. Because I do feel like there's such a strong correlation between how you feel and how your environment is. Yeah, so.
Yes, definitely. And, it goes back to the creative expression that can be in your career, but it's also so much about your environment and how you dress. For me, it's personal style, it's my career, and it's my home, or wherever I am. I'm always seeking to put myself in a place that's going to attract more of what I want. It's like I'm always thinking about who I aspire to be. So I want to put myself in the clothes or in the home or in the environment or in the career that's going to help me move more towards my ideal, my ideal sweet spot, who I aspire to be. And that brings more of it to you in that way. Because you feel it. You feel good.
Yeah.
So you feel good, then you're attracting more feel good stuff.
Yeah, I totally believe in that. So how did you get started and how did you become who you are today?
Well, like I said, it was a long process, but I don't even know where to begin with that. But I think that let's see if there was a pivotal moment. I was in my last job, I was the director of career development for a liberal arts college. Mm-hmm. And I had started practicing manifestation and intention about 10 years before that. And I had learned how to manifest things for myself in my life, which was beautiful. And at the time I knew that, well, I had a daughter and we lived in Vermont, and I say it's a place where people are overeducated and under earning. So there's not there's like not a lot of economic opportunity, a lot of creative opportunity, but not a lot of economic opportunity. And so I just said to myself, I want a job that's going to fit my particular needs, which is to work part-time and to make a certain amount of money and to still feel like I can wear whatever I want to work, basically. So I got this job in career counseling and then quickly became the director. And so it was, I worked in that for 4 years. And during that time, I was listening to people explain what their dreams were and, how they felt like they couldn't do their dream, or they were scared to even tell me what their dream was, or they knew their dream, but they didn't know how. And I just literally figured out how to help people do that. And then I started seeing results. And during that time, I was like, well, okay, so I'm obviously helping people get into the school that they want to, or get the job that they want to, or get the internship, or get the scholarship. And I know I've done that for myself a lot too. So, but what stopped me from doing my own creative career? Because I've had lots of experience in other kinds of careers, mostly around like social kind of stuff, like helping other people in some way, and academia. But, I never was able to kind of like really do the creative thing that I so decided to do. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to take the advice that I'm giving these people and I'm just going to see if it works. And what I have to do is almost start from the bottom and start from scratch. And, as I was telling Michelle Ward on her podcast about how I went to see this psychic, and she was like, you need to start a TV show. And I was like, okay, but I'm too old and I don't have any experience and I'm bad with technology and, all the reasons. And I was like, okay, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm just going to start, and I'm going to interview people who are making money doing work they love, because that's what I want to do. So that's the topic of the show. And the first person was an author, and we hit it off. And at the end, which was, synchronicity, because it's like, here's this, we're in this small town, and why don't I know Suzanne? Like, how is it possible I don't know this awesome, very cool, like soul sister in my very small town? And I didn't know her until I started the show, and someone said, you should interview her, So that just meeting her and interviewing her for my very first little local TV show, it changed my life, because she was an author and she introduced me to an agent who was actually supposed to help me with the show. But instead she got me a book deal, sort of by accident.
That's awesome.
And, and I had started a blog with the show. And so I was writing, and I took some classes on, with Holly Becker, Decorate, on like blogging your way. And
I love her. Maybe that's how we met.
Maybe so, because that was probably like 5 years ago. Did we meet that long ago?
No, but I know we got connected in one of the Facebook groups. That might be one of it. Because I'm in Holly's classes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I got to work on her new book, so that was nice.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, she has a new book coming out, and I worked on a couple of the shoots when they were shooting in LA.
Oh, did you stage it?
No, I assisted Leslie, who was her writing partner.
Yeah,
or co-author.
Leslie Schring. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool. That's so awesome. Yeah. So, her class, she inspired me. I think I looked up to her as someone that I would like to be like. I saw that she
Hmm.
created her career. And I love how she integrates her own story in her blog. And she
Yeah.
integrates, that she's a teacher, and she loves home decor, but she's not necessarily just an interior stylist. So she just pulls together all of these different things and created her own path. And she shared about that. So I felt very drawn to her story. And now I feel like I'm on a very similar path to her, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, congratulations for that. Holly's definitely one of my role model. Like, I just love her. I actually started my home staging blog around the same time, but I kind of abandoned it
Hmm.
midway, and then now I'm kind of working on it again. So, like, she's definitely like my blog hero.
Yeah, I love her. I love her. Well, all those experiences together, formed what I'm doing now. So the book was a big catalyst to my career. And then once the book came out, I was still counseling people on, how to make money doing work they love. And then as I started to do that myself, it just became natural that I would become what I call a lifestylist. So I help people in that kind of holistic way of creating their sweet spot, whatever that is in their home and their personal style and their life, but mostly around who they are, like pulling out their essence around career. And then of course I think that people are just drawn to maybe because they have a certain aesthetic too.
Hmm.
So my branding has a certain aesthetic. So it's sort of, that's what I'm doing right now, and who knows how it's going to evolve, but it's great.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love your tagline. You said that a stylist makes things beautiful, a lifestyle coach makes your life more beautiful. So, what is a lifestyle coach?
So, a lifestyle coach is basically helping you figure out how you want your lifestyle to be and feel. And it comes instead of coming up with goals. So when I was a career, counselor, I would say, what is it? What kind of job do you want to get? Or what kind of job do you feel like you want to get? Or, in my private practice, people would come to me and say, I want this particular job. And I'd say, okay, well, let's work on your resume and your cover letter, and here's some networking skills. And then they would get the job, and then they wouldn't be happy in the job. And that happened to me too. A lot of times I'd be like, I want this particular job, and I'd get it, and I wasn't happy. So it made me think, like, what's going on here? How can I avoid this? And then I read Danielle Laporte's fire starter sessions, and then her desire map. Have you read those?
I have not, but I've read her blog. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so she comes to this point of view of like, just stop trying to go for your goal and go for your feelings. Go for
Mm,
she calls them the core desired feelings.
mm,
And so I made a list of my core desired, my feelings and how I wanted my lifestyle to look. And then I just opened it up and I was like, I don't really care how this comes about. Like I said earlier, I don't care if I'm a magazine writer, or if I'm a life coach, or if I have a TV show, or I write books, or whatever, as long as I'm able to, pretty much feel like I work for myself, or I work for someone who's very cool, and I have complete flexibility, and I'm location independent, and I have enough money to travel internationally when I want to, and I don't have to worry about, you know, budget travel anymore, because I had to do that so much when I was younger, because I love travel, but it was like always on the budget. So as long as I have those things in my life, and I'm able to walk my daughter to school and pick her up from school because I have that freedom, and I'm able to be creative in my work and have meaning in my work. I mean, the list is getting long, right? But those are the things that I want, and that's my lifestyle. So that's what I help other people with. So I turn it around, and we kind of like start from scratch of like, okay, what is it that you truly, truly, truly want? And then let's go from there. And if you have a goal, then you usually have like really specific steps to get to that goal, and you usually don't stop until you get to that goal, right? That's
yeah.
goal setting. And
Hmm.
I used to be a big goal setter, but now I'm like, okay, a goal is similar to an intention, but the difference is with an intention, you're just laying the groundwork for it. And then you're kind of open to how you receive that, but you stick with that big core message, but you manifest it instead of like taking these specific actions. Now, not to say that you don't take any action. So I call it inspired action steps. So we kind of guess and like, okay, you want to feel financially free. So how do you think that you're going to do that? Here's some ways. I don't know for sure. You don't know for sure. Let's try it. And then let's see what happens. And okay, does the energy flow? Is this flowing? Is this easy? Does this seem to be working? Not at all. Okay, let's switch, And then sometimes you have to suffer a little bit through that process, but that process eventually will get you where you want to be. And I think it gets you where you want to be even faster than setting a goal, and even better because, and you don't know for sure if your goal is going to make you happy, but if you achieve your intention, you're going to be happy.
That's amazing. So is this basically how someone can design the life that they want? Just follow this process?
Yeah, and it's a 7-step process. Excuse me. So I've written an e-course and on the 7 steps, and it starts off with clarity, and then from once you're clear, then you have an intention, and you take inspired actions, and you release your negative beliefs or your limiting stories, and you ask for support, which means that you also practice self-love and self-support, meaning you take care of yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually so that you have the energy to do what you need to do, because it's scary when you admit what you really want to do. And then seeking support from others. I have my own coach. I have a mastermind that I lean on, and lots of friends in business. So I definitely have to do that myself, and I encourage other people to do that. And then it ends with gratitude, just consciously being super grateful for any little tiny thing that comes along that's towards that path. And focusing on that, because, I believe if you focus on gratitude, it just brings more abundance.
I love that. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. That is amazing. I was just thinking about my own business journey. Yeah, like after finding clarity, so many things have shifted for me. And yeah, and I practice gratitude as well. I feel very blessed, and I tell myself that all the time. And I love you brought up support, including self-love, because that is so important. Because I think when I was struggling in my business, I was constantly beating myself down and just feeling frustrated and depressed. And I think when you have a mindset like that, it's even harder to get yourself out of it. So I love that you brought up self-love.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you just have to stick with it, like be open to the blessings that are coming, and having faith. And that was another step I forgot, faith, because that one's really hard. No surprise I forgot it, because I don't really like it. It's really hard to have faith. But that's kind of part of the practice,
That's awesome. And then I know you talk about manifesting a lot. Can you talk a little bit about that, and how does it work?
Yeah, so the way it started for me was, I think I've always, been interested in it, like just from watching Oprah from when I was little, and she talked about, your vision board and all that. Like I would come home from school and I would run and sit in front of the TV and watch Oprah because I loved her. I think I was, probably 12 or something. But yeah, it stems from that. And, I've read a lot of those kinds of books, and that's how I came up with the 7 steps that have worked for me. But, around 10 years ago, I went to grad school. Well, longer than 10 years ago. I went to grad school. I moved from Arkansas to Vermont, went to grad school, and then I got this job that seemed like it was going to be my ideal job in the career path that I had chosen, which was international and intercultural education at the time. And I really did not love my job. And then I got pregnant, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I need to stay in this job for a while longer, and maybe it'll get better, but it wasn't. And it wasn't like it was a bad job. It was just a bad job for my particular personality type. And it was a great job, but again, it wasn't great for me. So I was part of this group, and we read this book by Barbara Stanny called Overcoming Under-Earning. And she encourages us to, make an intention and say what your ideal thing is. And, I'm also a little bit of a skeptic. And so I was like, I've done this before. I know all about this. Like, I'm not going to do this stupid. But, my friend was like, just write your intention. I was like, okay, whatever. So I wrote it, and then I was kind of scared to read it because I just felt like, okay, if I focus on this, it's impossible. So then what's going to happen? I'm just going to be disappointed when it fails. And also, I'm not going to have a real plan, So the 3 things that I said I wanted to quit my job. I wanted to stay home with my baby for 3 years at least. And I wanted to buy a house. And we had no money and no savings because I just finished grad school, and I had been moving us around a lot, and we'd just been spending a lot of money just to get to where we were. So we finally were in this, house in Massachusetts, And it just didn't seem like now was the time to quit this job, you know?
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to work at that job anymore. And I didn't want to work at that job with a baby, like a newborn baby. I just didn't. It was a very strong feeling that I wanted to be home with her. So I started focusing on that intention, and I did it for 9 months. My friend was like, just do it for 3 months. I did it for 3 months, 3 turned to 6, and then she was born, and I was on maternity leave, and I was still focusing on it. And this is a long story. This is in the first chapter of my book. But just to shorten it a little bit, basically what happened was there was a big accident. Oh. And my this accident caused me to break my femur in my leg, which is, like the biggest bone in your body. Mm-hmm. And my daughter was only 4 weeks old. Wow. And so I had to be rushed to this hospital an hour away. I couldn't nurse, and I was on morphine, and I had to have surgery and all this stuff. But basically what happened was the woman, it was a dog who tripped me. And the dog who had tripped me to cause the accident, she had homeowner's insurance. Mm. And she called me and said, my insurance wants to pay for your pain and suffering.
Oh, wow.
Which was a lot of pain and suffering because I was this mom with this baby. I couldn't even nurse anymore, Mm. So basically they just handed me a check that allowed me to do the 3 things that I wanted to do, which was quit my job, stay home with my daughter for 3 years, and buy a house.
That's intense.
So that's intense. So that's when I was like, of course, at first I was like, what is going on here? And my friend who started that group was like, you're a master manifester. You figured out how to make that happen no matter what, even though you halfway didn't even believe it because you're so powerful. And I was like, can I cuss? I was like, fuck you, man. No. I was like, I did not manifest a broken femur, Yeah. But then as time passed and I got better, and actually what happened was I used to have a lot of hip pain, and after the accident, it disappeared. So I actually am in better shape now than before the accident. And now that I look back on it, and I've continued to practice manifesting it, basically, which is just focusing on what I want. So much other good stuff has happened that I know for sure that I did manifest that. Like I have proof. I have 10 journals worth of stuff because I am sort of an academic. So I started documenting it, and I was like, okay, let's see for sure. Did I really do this? So then I'd be like, okay, I want a new car. And I'd focus on that. And then some random thing would happen, and I'd get the money for a new car. And then I'd be like, okay, I want my daughter to go to this private school. And then I'd manifest a scholarship, where I manifested a lot of stuff in the beginning that was through accidents and insurance checks and the bad stuff. And then after a while I got smart, and I started saying okay, I want to manifest this in I added to this intention. I'd always tag on in a healthy and safe way for me and my family. So now I feel like I'm at the point where I can manifest it through my actual work, which was my real goal, And I think it's taken me a long time to figure that out because there were so many limiting beliefs around what I could do, how I could actually make money doing work that I love. I have a lot of limiting beliefs around that. So the money was coming in to allow me to have this lifestyle through all these strange ways. And it still is. It still is. But now I'm finally starting to also make money, doing the work that I love. I mean, not finally. I've only, like I said, this is the beginning of my 3rd year business, and I have made money, but so it's happening.
That's awesome. So what are some of the challenges that people run into when they're manifesting? Because, for example, a lot of women say, oh, I really want to get married, but then they get frustrated because they feel like they never meet the man that they want.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not very good with that scenario. I don't feel like I'm that great with dating and marriage, but I will say that I did have a client who is also a friend, and she was in one of my very first sessions before I even started my business. And she wrote a big list of everything that she wanted in a man, and she had struggled for many, many years with finding a good guy. She just kept picking the worst guys ever. And she focused on it for probably a year or 2. And she just kept imagining this person that she wanted to be with. And the pickings are slim where we live, I don't know what's going on in our town, but all the women joke about it. We're like, all the women are amazing and all the guys are not.
Oh, trust me, same way in San Francisco.
That's so weird.
It is weird.
But anyway, of course, the guy comes along, she falls in love, and now, they're together. So I have seen it work with relationships, and I have seen miracles. And in fact, in my own relationship, I've seen major transformations using intention and just pouring love into it. So, I think that maybe the biggest problem is that people give up a little bit too soon, I've seen stuff happen super fast with my clients and in my own life. And then I've seen stuff take years. And I don't know what the difference is, except for the fact that maybe it takes longer to come when it's something that's really difficult for us to actually believe in.
So again, that comes back to faith, right? You have to have faith. Yeah.
You have to have faith. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I've never practiced this and I really don't believe you, but I'm kind of interested, then I would say what you should do is just start small and just, start really small so that you can build your faith.
That's so interesting. And I think it sounds like the other trick is to be very specific about what you want.
Very specific, because what I left out in the very beginning, this is pretty funny, is that when we started that intention group, I wasn't pregnant at the time. And my first intention with reading Barbara Standy's book was the word abundance. Now, abundance, I was thinking financial abundance, but I was just saying the word abundance, 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 abundance. Well, you can have an abundance of money. You can have an abundance of problems.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have abundance of acne. And I got abundance of baby. I got pregnant within 2 months of saying I wanted abundance. I got a baby. I was not really expecting that, honestly. So I was really happy. But I was like, oh, man, I need to be very clear. I need to be really clear and say exactly what it is that I want. So I see that all the time. I'm in all these Facebook groups and people will be like, what's your word of the year? And people will be like, abundance, or, somebody said, I forgot one that sounded kind of negative. And I was like, just be careful because you will probably get it. So watch out what you say, watch out what you think, watch out, the stories you're constantly telling. If you're constantly complaining, if you're constantly, talking about your ills and I have bad luck and all of that, you're going to keep getting it. Because intention doesn't have to be positive, and intention can be negative. It's like, basically worrying is like praying for bad things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
you're kind of praying whether your head is down and your hands are, in the prayer position. Your thoughts are a prayer, so it can be, it can bring in good things or it can bring in not so good things. So you just have to be cautious of what you're thinking, what you're saying, and the stories you're saying, telling it, to yourself and others, because you'll get more of it. I always say I'm a lucky person. I'm always like, oh my gosh, I got this thing. I'm so lucky. And now my friends, they'll call me magic woman and magic manifester. And I love it because, I'm like, yeah, I want you to call me that because it's going to bring more to me. And I want to tell these good stories. Not that everything's easy, because it's totally not. We're all human. We all struggle, but it's a way to make it a little bit easier.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned about manifesting your dream home. How can someone manifest their dream home?
Well, I think it all goes back to, it's the same 7 steps for everything. It's, first getting clear, start imagining, play. When I saw this house online, before we had the money, I was just imagining myself there. I went to visit it and everybody was like, no, you're not. Why would you look at that? You can't afford it. And I was like, but I feel like this is my house and I've lived here 7 years, so, just get clear, start imagining, start playing, and also take practical steps too. So while I was manifesting and, cutting out paper and putting in my vision book, I was also looking into home ownership classes. I found a grant that I could save money and they would match me, and that paid for my down payment, so practical things like that of just acting like it's going to happen and taking the steps, even when you're like, I have no idea how that's going to happen.
That's great advice, because I feel like most people think, oh, it's so woo-woo, and it's just like, how can you just think it? But there's part of you that needs to take action as well. You can't just be like, okay, I think it, and then when the opportunity comes, you can't take advantage of it because you've never done the prep work for it.
And I think that's such a great point. And really, to me, like, if you really do believe it, you will automatically take action towards it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you are trying to call in the perfect man and you're imagining that perfect man is there, you want to go out and be seen. Like you want to go to a party because maybe that man is there. You want, like, you're going to take some steps to put yourself in the position so that you can be ready to receive that love, or ready to receive that house, or ready to receive that job. It's like, if you want to work in interior, styling or whatever, then you start to manifest it. And then you also make a list of things that you can do that are going to get you closer. Like you sign up for a trip to Italy with Justina Blakenley, right?
Yay! I can't believe that's so random. Like, we are both going, and I had no idea at a time when we booked for this podcast. And they're just like, last night when I signed in the Facebook, I was like, wait, that is so random. Are we both going? That's amazing. Yeah.
I know. And that's another thing that I do is I take leaps of faith sometimes through kind of crazy actions. Like when I signed up for that retreat I guess about a month ago, I was like, not really, it was kind of a leap of faith, in other words, because I'm already going to Mexico for a month. I'm taking off for 3 weeks or to 4 weeks to lead my own retreat. And I'm going to be gone, and I'm staying in nice places, and it's going to be expensive. And my husband's going on a big trip to Europe this summer. And that's 2 big international trips, and we have a 9-year-old. So it's not just like money stuff. It's also logistics and being away and all that. And I saw that trip and I was like, I remember that I had seen it the year before, and I remember seeing the pictures, and I was like, "Oh my God, I got to go! I want to go!" But then I talked myself out of it. Oh, I can't go this year. And then I saw it again this year, and I started to say the same thing, and I was like, "No, that's not going to happen again. I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna do it." And then, of course, a series of things happened that made it super easy. So now it's like, I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I signed up for that. So basically what happened was, like, we had a little leak in my kitchen. Here it goes back to the insurance. And, it's kind of a long story, but basically there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. And they ended up sending me a check. And I was like, oh my God, well, here it is. And I'm not going to complain. Okay. That's going to pay for Italy or for, Matt's trip or whatever. It's going to pay for one of them.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy for me too, because I was coming up with a list of speakers I want to pitch you, like, for the podcast. And Justina was on the list. And then so I was doing research, so I went on her website and I saw the trip, and I was just like, what are the odds? I'm already going to be in Europe, so I might as well. I've been wanting to study with her forever, and I just haven't had a chance. I somehow keep missing it, so I was just like, oh, wait, this might be a perfect opportunity. So I decided to sign up for a trip. Yeah. It was really random. It really literally happened 2 days ago, right before the early
So you didn't
deadline.
even know before 2 days ago? You didn't even know that you were going to go?
Wow. No, I had no idea. I just was so happened that I was talking to my business coach. She was really pushing me. Because one of the big thing, I think, difficulty of booking guests is that people also want to know what kind of other big names you have invited.
Yeah.
But besides that point, like, it's one of my dream guests to have Barbara Corcoran on the show, who was a really big real estate broker. She had a very successful business, basically rag to riches story as well. And I've heard her speak at conferences, and she was amazing. So I thought she would be a really great guest for the show. And so my coach was like, well, then that's great. Then we need to get 20 more people just like Barbara. And and I was just like, so I was coming up with my list, and then there was like all these people I just feel like, oh my God, it's like impossible to get. But then there's just a different way to develop relationship, right? And it just so happened I saw the trip, and I was just like, well, I always want to learn from her because she's such an amazing stylist. Even though I'm not the jungalo, like, my personal style is not like the jungalo kind of scheme. But I thought just it would be a great, amazing way to learn from her in such an intimate setting. I'm a kind of a retreat junkie. I go on a lot of retreats in general. So I was just like, hey, why not, right? So, and Italy is amazing, so.
I just can't wait.
So I know you're also a published author. We talked about this briefly. So I want to talk a little bit about your book. It's Create the Style You Crave on a Budget You Can Afford. And I really love the idea of your book. What are some of the inspirations behind the book?
Well, the inspiration is that I just wanted to highlight stories of real people that are creating their own sweet spot in their own way. So
Mm,
it really wasn't about a particular style because I really love lots of styles.
yeah.
I can be really happy in a little cozy cabin or a big gigantic mansion. It's more about, because they feel really different and I like to feel all kinds of different ways, right? So I didn't want to pinhole it to like one specific style, although, I do have, um, I do have what I love the most, which is I do lean towards vintage and bohemian stuff.
Hmm.
But this book kind of has a mix. And I really wanted to just show people that it's possible no matter what your budget, because I didn't grow up, like I said, with a lot of extra. And we lived in a little duplex, and all around us were little duplex apartments, and my mom and I would drive around to the historic neighborhood in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I just fell in love with those neighborhoods, like the big trees, and all the houses were different, and lots of different styles of houses. And I just was curious, like, who lives in these houses? Like, what do they do for a living? Are they artists? Are they doctors? And I still have that curiosity. I like to go into people's houses and because it tells me a little bit about who they are and their values and what they think is cool and what they think is important. And so I like that sneak peek. And I feel like that's what the book is, It's going into somebody's life and seeing where they live, but also learning a little bit about who they are and what's important to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, so how can someone create a room that inspires them?
Well, I think, goes back to step one of clarity. It's like, how do you
Mm,
want to feel in your house? What are the emotions that you want to evoke? So I live in a 1920s craftsman home. And the reason why I chose this home was because it reminded me of the homes that I saw when we would drive around in those historic neighborhoods. So for me, just living in this house makes me feel like now I'm one of those people.
that's
We used to
awesome.
drive around and look at it, and I wanted to be one of those people. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be in that neighborhood. And I live in a different state now, but I live in that kind of house. So just that vibration of like, now I live in that kind of house that I always wanted to live in, and within my house, it's always changing. So, first, there was like a bunch of ugly wallpaper that wasn't me. So I had to take that down. And recently I redid my office, and I was actually listening to B School,
Mm. I
online
did
program.
B school as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you did B School as well. So that's
I
great.
know. Like, how come our paths like have never crossed until
Yeah.
now? So crazy.
Well, we're definitely on the same path with Holly Becker, Justina, and now Marie Forleo. Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing.
Well,
All
it's
amazing women who
all
have
amazing women.
amazing communities. Like I have to say, that's the other thing too. I really love like having that community and then the women and support. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, when I was listening to B School, I had this office that was a complete and utter mess. It was the last room of the house that I wanted to do, and it turned into a kind of a junk room. But it was a pretty room. It has this little window in it, like stained glass window, and it had a nice other big window. And I was in that room, and it was just full of clutter. And I just looked at this big bookshelf, and I was like, everything that's on this bookshelf is just a metaphor for what's on my mind. Too much. Too much. And so it's like this space really does reflect where I am in my business in my life. This was a couple of years ago.
I
And
see.
so I totally listened to B School, and I took everything out of that room and I painted it white. And no other room in my house is white, but I feel like it's significant that that's my office.
Hmm.
And white is, what's more clear and clean than white? I wanted it to feel like it was I wanted to declutter my space as I was decluttering my mind.
That's really juicy. I love that.
And I think that's what you can do with your own space. So you can feel like, do you have a job that's really stressful? Like, do you have a job where you feel like you're on nonstop? Maybe you need to come home and you need to be soothed. And maybe white isn't the right color to be soothed. To me, to be soothed, the rest of my house to me feels kind of like a hug from your grandma a little bit. It's
Oh,
not, there's not like, it's not modern at all. It's kind of homey. There's like couches with ripped up stuff for my cat. But it feels like a place where you can just plop on the couch and have some tea.
yeah.
So some people need that in their life, and some people need, to feel more focused. So you can arrange your space through color and through texture and through, your own sense of intuition of what brings you comfort or joy or whatever it is that you need. And I think it just starts with the question of like, how do I want to feel in my house, or how do I want to feel in this room, and then go from there. And trust yourself. I feel like if we ask the right questions, we can figure it out. Like I definitely don't feel like you. I mean, you may disagree, but I don't feel you can probably ask somebody for help. But I think in the end, like you can probably figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I'm a big fan of mood boards, because I feel like the process of creating a mood board when you're just collecting things that you feel inspired, and then you lay everything. That's my process. I usually teach this way as well. Like I just collect as many images that inspires you, and then you kind of see what are the common threads that are speaking to you, and then you really like go through this process of eliminating and then editing, and then eventually find what will work for you. Because I really feel like the space really needs to be inspirational. And I do feel, because having seen so many homes, especially I go into a lot of homes that are divorced, or just someone had passed away. That's why they're selling the house, usually like a parent.
Yeah.
And the state of the house really reflect what's happening in their real lives. You really can see, especially like homes are going through divorces, there's chaos everywhere. There's no color. There's no cheeriness. Like there's no happiness in a way. It's very chaotic. Even children's rooms too, that you can see what like the state of mind of the children. It just it's not good. So that's why I always feel like it's really important to talk about how your space can impact you positively or negatively, and then teach people ways to like change it.
Yeah. And I think that if you are going through something like that and there's so much you can't control, at least you can control your space. At least you can make that a safe spot, a sweet spot for you to feel good in. Because, if you're going through a divorce or there's been death, like there's not much you can do, you just have to get through it, right? But at least, if your home feels good, it's just one other way. Not that it's going to solve the whole problem, of course, but it can be helpful.
It can, yeah. Especially, yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think just clarity is so important. We talk about it so much on this show. And what are some of your tips about finding clarity in ourselves? Because I do feel like a lot of times when people don't have clarity, they feel very overwhelmed. And they feel frustrated, but they don't know how to find that peace in themselves. So what are some recommendations for that?
Well, first I would go out and buy Liz Gilbert's new book, Big Magic.
Ooh.
Have you read that?
I've started. Yeah, it's amazing. I love her podcast too.
I love her podcast, and I just listened to her one that she did on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah, and she talks about the hummingbird. And she talks about how she did a disservice to her audiences in the beginning of her career, because she was talking about finding your passion, and how once you find your passion, then you just go for it and you stick with it, and it's the one thing, and it's going to bring you the most joy, and you're going to be successful and all that. And we hear that message a lot around, find your bliss, follow your bliss,
like
follow your passion.
Basically.
Kind of, it's like go on this big quest and find this one big thing that's going to change your life, and then you're going to have everything you ever wanted. And that's just not true for a lot of people, and that's definitely not even true for me, because because a lot of people have more than one thing they're interested in.
Right.
And I'm a multi-passionate person, and there's another a great talk that if you feel like you can't figure out what you want to do is look up multi-potentialite. And there's a TED Talk, and I don't know who the person is who did this TED Talk, but she talks about the same concept. Like, there's a lot of people. I don't know if you've ever taken the Myers-Briggs, but their ENFP is typical. It's like you're interested in a lot of things, and when you're interested in a lot of things, it's almost impossible to pick one thing and say it's your passion. It's like, no, I have a lot of passions.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we have a lot. Right now, where we are, especially in online marketing, it's all about find one thing, find one problem, and solve it. And listen, if you can do that, you're so lucky, because it's so much easier to do that. because my brand is so abstract and, I have to have a long conversation for you to figure out exactly what I do. Right? And probably people are listening saying, well, I still don't even know what she does. But it's not like, hey, let me show you how to make money using Facebook ads. Wouldn't that be nice and easy? So if you're that kind of person, that's awesome. But if you feel like you have 5 or 6 different things, then, what I think Liz Gilbert would say is to follow your curiosity.
I love that.
Instead of your passion. So she talks about this example of it's not like you have to, hop on a plane and go to Nepal and start an orphanage. Just turn your head and half an inch to the side and look around and see what sparks your energy. Yeah. See what excites you and start there. And it could be a little thing maybe and I think part of it is just being open. Like for you, you're open about starting this podcast, even though it's difficult and it's hard because you need to get these big names, but you go on to Justina's website and you got excited because you saw this trip and you didn't question it a bunch. You let your excitement lead the way. So that's what I would say to people who aren't sure and who don't have clarity. Let your excitement lead the way, have faith, and keep following that feeling of curiosity and excitement until one day you'll wake up and you'll be like, wow, I feel like I really know what it is that I want to do for now. Because it doesn't have to be forever either. It's like, I'm going to choose this thing to do for now.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to see how it goes. And because that's the other thing with curious people who don't have clarity, they can't make a decision because they're scared they're going to make the wrong one, not the best one.
Yeah.
But if you allow yourself to think, I'm just going to make this decision now because my heart wants to, and I'm going to trust that my heart is going to lead me in the right way, then you do that thing. And then if you like it, then you're going to find another thing that you like, and you're going to do that. And then it's just going to keep going like that until eventually you'll feel like a lot more clear. And if you don't like it, then you switch.
Yeah.
But probably you will like it if you follow your heart, You
you gotta try it. You gotta try it before you know you like it or not. And you can stick with it. I think that is a really amazing way to put it and how to find clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm loving this conversation. Oh my gosh. It's so juicy. I just think that there's so much, and I think it's interesting that with Liz Gilbert and how her career has changed as well. Yeah, I'm a big fan of how I wasn't really big on the Eat, Pray, Love thing, to be honest. Sorry, guys. Because I feel like if you can't find yourself at home, it's going to be difficult for you to find that anywhere else in the world. Because I remember when I was in my 20s, after I graduated from college, I backpacked through Europe by myself for 60 days. And I met so many people that are like, I'm out here finding myself. And I'm kind of like, well, if you didn't find it at home, what would made you find it out here, I think she has that unique journey where she literally had a gap year where she just really explored different options for herself. And she just really started letting things go. I think I didn't read the book. I watched the movie with Julia Roberts. Sorry, the Cliff Notes version of books. And you really do see that process where she really kind of just start letting things go and start embracing what she thought she couldn't do. And it's all fine and it all worked out. And then she found a new guy. And yeah, and I think she has gone through this amazing process for herself and figuring out what is really true to her. And I think her new development with The Big Magic, it's amazing. It's impacting so many creatives I know. And like what you said too, we all find a lot of resonance with her message. I don't have a better way to put it, but yeah, I think what she's doing now, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I like that message a lot. I do. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Oh my God. Lots of stuff today. So how can someone learn to communicate their creative expression?
I think that they just have to listen to their intuition and see where they're driven to, and then just start doing it,
That's awesome. And where can our listeners find you?
They can find me at sweetspotstyle.com. That's my umbrella brand. And then I have an e-course that is Sweet Spot Style Your Biz for people who are seeking clarity and who want to follow that 7-step formula that we talked about. They can learn about that there.
That's awesome. And you want to talk about retreat a little bit? I think you have one more spot to fill, or did you fill it already?
I have one more spot to fill. I think it's going to be filled really soon because I just have this one more spot. But it's in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. And it's a luxury retreat in a beautiful home. And it's really designed for creative entrepreneurial women who are ready. They're already successful. So this isn't necessarily the retreat for finding clarity. It's more of like for the people who are pretty clear on their path, but they want to keep going. Mm-hmm. They want to upgrade. They want to upgrade their lifestyle. They want to maybe assess and see where they're putting their time and energy, and they want to strategize, and they just want to grow, and they want more beauty and success in their life. And they want to make sure that they're getting it the easiest way possible without sacrificing their health or their family or all that stuff that we tend to do. You see the role models of the really successful women, like, did you read that post by Ariana Huffington? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read it. I will have to find it. I'll link it in the show notes as well. And then the TED Talk too. I'll have to Google and find it.
Yeah, well, she talks about when she started the newspaper and she was taking her daughter to college, how it was a really stressful time. Mm-hmm. And she was just overworked, and she literally just collapsed on her computer and broke her face.
My God.
She broke her nose. I think she broke her jaw. She damaged her face by falling into her computer because she was that exhausted. And I was like, wow. I just don't want to do that. It's not that important to me. Yeah. I want my lifestyle, but that includes that I don't want to go crazy with this stuff, like I want to be able to live my life too. So that's what the retreat is about. It's like, how can we ask for more of what we want and just have it come in the easiest way possible?
I love that. That sounds like my jam, totally. Next year. Do you always do it in Mexico in the same location?
Yeah, I do. I do it in San Miguel, which has this energy vortex for creatives, and it has beautiful light. So there's a lot of artists and writers are attracted to that place, which is why I'm attracted to it. And it's always in February every year.
That's awesome. I love energy vortexes. Can you tell I'm like a Californian girl who's all like, yeah.
Totally.
It's amazing. It's crazy. I mean, I went to Tulum 2 years in a row, like last year and the year before. Mm-hmm. It's such a different energy there too. Like you can just feel it, like the vibration and the ocean. It's just fantastic. Mm-hmm. I love it. I'm totally a hippie. Gosh. I like Tulum a lot. And San Miguel is completely opposite from Tulum, because Tulum has that very bohemian, beachy, stylish vibe. And San Miguel has more of a European old world feel. But beautiful, beautiful homes, so many beautiful homes behind the doors of these big, concrete buildings and wooden doors. When you open it, there's these gorgeous garden courtyards, and it feels like you're up in it, but affordable. It feels like it's not on the Refinery 29 yet, not like the next hip spot to be, but coming up soon, I'm sure.
Well, it actually was listed as Condé Nast, like the best place to travel in the world, the best vacation destiny. So I feel like that was maybe like last year.
That's cool.
It was listed as that. Yeah. So it's but it's still there's a lot of older people there. So I think that it's now starting to attract like the younger crowd, like the younger families and stuff. So I think that'll make it even cooler.
It's kind of funny because I feel like there's this trendy spot for vacation every year. Like the year before was Tulum, and then last year was like Amsterdam. I don't know what this year's is yet, but yeah, like there's definitely a trend of where to vacation as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Strange. Just go wherever you want. There's a lot of cool places.
That's awesome. So my last question on the show today, it's like, what is the one tip you can give to our listeners about manifesting what they want in life?
The one most important tip. I would say the one most important tip is just to try it. If you haven't tried it and you're nervous about it or you think it's too woo-woo for you, but you're struggling, I would say just give it the benefit of the doubt and just try to manifest something really small and then see how it goes and build your faith and start from there. And if that happens, send me a note because I want to hear about it, because I think it's fun to hear these. It excites me to hear these stories, you know. I work with clients and I have a secret Facebook group, and I love it when people start telling me how they've manifested stuff because it's so fun. It's like a board game. It's like, I'm going to roll the dice and I'm going to try to get this thing, and then you get the thing. It's like, yay, you got it.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, especially on a Saturday morning. I can't appreciate you enough.
Oh, it's fun. I love this conversation. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see you in May.
I know. Italy, here we come.
Yeah, so exciting. Yay. Well, have a great weekend.
You too.
Hey guys, so that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you really enjoyed today's episode and had taken some very valuable information and action steps down for yourself. If you haven't heard the other 2 episodes during this 3-part mindset series, I will link to them in the show notes as well. Also, a quick shout out to SS Flood on iTunes. This listener said, really enjoyed the podcast. Working with clients on decluttering can be a very emotional time, and this was a great discussion on ways to approach and sounds like a super class that is being offered by the guest speaker. So thank you, SS Flood, for this wonderful review. If you guys haven't connected with us on Facebook group, please do so, because I'll be posting in there to see if you have any questions for our upcoming guests. You can also ask me questions in the group, and I'll answer to them either on the show or within the group. I'm also currently looking for more guests to be on the show for season 3 and 4. If you know anyone or wants to suggest someone, please let me know. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and a rating on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. It will only take you about 41 seconds to do so, but this will help us greatly to keep the show going. As usual, feel free to ask any questions on the show notes or in our private Facebook group. You can find the show notes by going to www.stageformore.com/podcast and then click on episode guide. That's it. Have a fantastic week and happy staging.